Hello and welcome to The Inverted Castle, a podcast about Metroidvania games. I'm Thomas Blight, a wealthy industrialist, and with me is the latest model off the assembly line, Eric Fox.
Let's be real here, I'm cheaper than the competitors' alternatives.
Well, I didn't say you were a luxury model.
Yeah, mass-produced model, unfortunately.
Yeah, and today we're talking about Ender Magnolia Bloom in the Mist, which is a game from, how do you count early access? I count it as this year because it went out of early access this year.
It reached full development. People got a sneak peek prior, but it reached 1.0, mass production, as it were.
Yeah, released in January of 2025, developed by Adglobe Live Wire, and published by Binary Haze Interactive.
Yeah.
I mean, we covered Ender Lilies a couple episodes ago, so if you haven't listened to that episode, I don't know what you're doing here. Go listen to that one. How did you even find us?
I don't know. Like, it makes sense to start with this one, because it is better.
Interesting.
In almost every respect, I think this is a better game for me personally. Spoiler alert, I guess, for where it'll go. That's easily a top 5 Metroidvania game, in my opinion.
Huh. I'm not so sure. But
okay.
I guess we can get into that. It wasn't bad.
No, of course not.
But I don't know that it was better.
I'm interested in why you think it is a downgrade, I guess. But we should probably, lay some groundwork and just kind of flit through, I guess, the story, such as it is.
Yeah. So much like the first game, you are a small girl who wakes up with no memory, but has the ability to... it's called tuning in this, but that's just kind of strange. The ability to harness out of control things. I don't know. Like in the first game, it was weird mutant zombie people. Now it's homunculi, but those homunculi are actually weird mutant zombie people.
Yes, so they're artificial life forms, homunculuses or homunculi, who this time the power of the blight is turning them crazy. Instead of people. But essentially you are, again, purifying them. Purifying in the first game, this time is tuning. One key difference in this game is that they're not dead anymore. We're not exploring the ruins of a dead civilization, merely one in the midst of a crisis. And when you tune them, you're not like pacifying their spirits so they can go beyond. They're now a character who kind of joins your party.
Yeah. That's true.
Which is not something you see in these as often. Like we often see like the remnants of a once great civilization. This time there are actual characters and stakes in the immediate sense instead of just finding out what used to be. This time is now there's an actual future to be fought for.
Although I believe the blight fumes are actually affecting the humans as well, but not in the drive you crazy, just kill you, I think.
Yeah, you don't meet humans who are blight infected, really, but the Reign of Death returns, but is covered by what's called the Empyrean Parasol, so most of the city is protected, and that kind of becomes the main thing you're working towards is either stopping the thing that is currently in control of it, which is currently blighting the whole place, or destroying it and ending the immortal life of a homunculi, but generally resolving the blight crisis.
Yeah. Oh, also, I definitely early on, the first time that they mentioned this parasol, I thought they had literally just, put a concrete cap on the city. And they're like, no, we don't have to deal with the Reign of Death anymore, because we've got our concrete cap.
Honestly, it's probably a better solution than the unknown magics from beneath the earth. Once again, society has delved not only too greedily, which is bad enough, but they went ahead and went too deep as well. And things went bad when the blight returned in the form of fumes.
So the connections with the first game, explicitly, the magic tech that makes homunculi work is just the abilities of the ancients from the first game. They've just really ramped up the industrialization of this dystopia.
Yeah, instead of medieval and magic in the first game, this one's a lot more steampunky, early industrial. in terms of its setting, which is another way it kind of distinguishes itself.
Yeah.
Less ruins of kingdoms and more ancient factories and fucked up sewer systems.
Yeah, I was getting a little bit Roaring Twenties at the very end of the game.
Yeah, as you ascend to the like layers of wealth from the lower stratum where all of the poor people live to, you know, the noble elites, it starts to get better. In particular, the zone where it's just, oh yeah, this rich guy just built a tower to make homunculi fight each other for sport and his own entertainment.
Yeah, that was pretty weird. The entire, like, oh, also he's really into Japan.
Or some kingdom of the East, perhaps.
Yes, totally not Japan. It's only got ninjas and other Japanese things.
And you know the style of palace.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, in terms of aesthetic, it has a bit more variety than the first game. Some more splashes of color, but still maintains that style of like really muted colors, even though this is still a lived-in world. It's going through a time. It's got that bleak, somber piano backgrounds.
In fact, I'm pretty sure one of them is actually one of the leitmotifs from the first game.
So, at a certain point in the story, you meet a priestess from a far-off land who knows a lot about the Blight. In cutscenes with her, it just plays the main theme of Ender Lilies.
Oh, yeah, that too, but I was thinking not the actual land of origin, but the crystal area just outside of it.
Yeah, Crystalline Realm?
Yeah, I felt that there was a fair amount of the Ender Lilies music in that. Maybe I'm crazy.
I'm not sure if it is literally pulling that track and remixing it, or if it's like, let's be real, the music is of a piece of the original game as well. There's a bit more industrial tracks throughout, but especially in the more magical areas, it could just be another track from that game as well. I think the same person composed all the music as well, so
yeah.
It makes sense.
I guess in terms of gameplay, it's a lot of the same. They go straight to having a double jump and a dash, and an air dash this time.
It's so quick. You have like a tutorial boss, and then a random NPC gives you the cloak of attuners, and instantly both double jump, dash, and air dash. So you spend 90% of the game with all of that, which is neat.
Yeah.
I like it.
I guess since I'm thinking about combat right now for some reason.
Sure.
There's a bit more focus on the parrying mechanic, which, like, in the first one was cute, but kind of a side thing.
You're not going to miss it, really, but yeah, it's like halfway through the game, you can, if you hit the dodge button without moving, you can parry, but there's no real benefit beyond you just don't get hit, but honestly, dodging's better.
Yeah, at least in the first one, you would actually still get the knockback, as if you got hit, and so, like, it wasn't actually that great to parry.
No, if you were going to, you just equip the counter spirits and use those instead, honestly.
Yes, which we'll be happy to know I did actually equip the counter spirit and used it, and it was good.
Finally. It is good. We'll get into how this system differs from the original, but yeah, counters return, but also innately you have equipment instead of just the relics, which are also still here, but you also have equipment for defense. You have 2 bracelet slots, which are just stats for mostly defense, somewhat boosting your healing. Occasionally, if you want to sacrifice defense for a little bit more attack, you can.
Yeah, or you can sacrifice a little attack and get more healing potency or more health.
Oh yeah, just boost your max HP as well. But the main things that actually, I would say, matter in a gameplay perspective are your carapace, which is the thing that allows you to parry, and your totem, which affects your super moves as well as your healing capacity, like how many heals you get.
Yeah.
They also come with an innate ability. Totems will be like, oh, if you get down to like 15% HP, it'll auto heal and fill all your super meter gauges, or give you a buff, like an attack or a speed buff or something like that in certain situations, but you only can have one in between respites.
Yeah. And so for the carapaces, they had things like, oh, this will send back a homing attack to the enemy, or this will shoot out flames that might give them the burn status effect, or even ones that just heal you or build up your super meter.
Or if you want to just like, listen, you're not a parrier, you're not going to get the timing, you can just use that slot for a bit more stats, but obviously I didn't try for that. I'm not sure if you did.
I had it equipped at one point, but I also felt like the game really wanted you to parry. Like, there were some attacks that were just obnoxious to dodge, but not hard at all to parry. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll parry.
Yeah, the parry windows, I feel pretty generous as far as these games go.
They were.
And you can, to a certain extent, spam it. I know the final boss, I've found that he has a sequence of like 3 attacks in a row that as long as I got the first one, I could just spam the button to auto parry the rest.
Oh yeah, it was almost like a rhythm game. You just have to start on the right beat and go ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, pause, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Right. And then you deal like 1,000 damage back to him.
It's pretty good. The shockwave one is the one I used. It was the most immediate, and because I was already generally in the face of people, that's how I styled my combat.
I mostly used the homing one. I did try out the super meter one at one point.
Oh, yeah. I remember in the first game, you were all about the super meter being kind of busted.
It's not as good in this, but it's still...
I would say it's more balanced in this.
Yes. It is not as ridiculous in this one. Although... then against the true final boss, it is actually very good again. Honestly, I don't know how you clear that boss without abusing the super meter.
I mean, it helps. Like, using the super move does grant you invulnerability for a second, but as far as I'm aware, all of the abilities are technically dodgeable.
Oh, I had a real hard time dodging his big sword.
Oh, the big sword? Oh, no.
If he started doing that next to the wall, I was just like, I guess I'm just dead. I mean, maybe I could have been backstepping, but always forward, never behind.
I don't recall that being as much of an issue, but
Oh, I just adopted a policy of always supering him through it.
I mean, you may as well. Like, there are ways to generate SP so fast.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like that was the intended behavior, because then he's doing like essentially the same thing as your super move, and then you do the same thing, except yours is better.
Yeah, the final boss is kind of a mirror to your main like ability, so it makes sense that both their super moves are similar.
Yeah, I got way distracted by the final boss, but you know, I also just did that yesterday.
That is most present in mind. Yeah, I did that about 4 weeks ago.
The totems. I didn't mess around with the totems that much. I put on the ones that gave me more heals, and then when presented, the one that gave me more super meter and more heals, and that was it.
Yeah, the one I had was when you got down to below a certain amount of HP, it just autofills all your super meters, so you usually only have one.
Yeah.
Certain totems will grant you additional one, and I guess it also granted a heal once I got that one, but before that I was just going for more super moves.
I thought it was just heal first, and then the upgraded version of it was both heal and super, but maybe I'm misremembering.
I think there was one that was just super, but again, it doesn't really matter. There are a bunch, like I think there's like 10, 12 maybe. It does a fun thing where whatever one you pick just changes like this little, essentially a JPEG that follows you around, that changes its like design based on whatever totem you've got.
Yeah.
A nice touch.
It's a mag from Phantasy Star Online.
Yes. My favorite Metroidvania.
Yes. Clearly.
God.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I maybe should have messed around with them a little more. I felt like there was like, all right, here's the one for if you want more heals. There's maybe another one that was for exploration that'll like be a little more sustain heal, but won't do anything during bosses. And then here's the one that's probably for speedrunners. And that's the one that boosts attack. I was like, maybe I should try that. Nah.
I think I did have that one on for a while. It basically changes your heal to also give you an attack buff. Not bad, but I think super moves tend to be more useful when you are still learning bosses and whatnot, to just have that panic button.
Fair.
But yeah, this is also a game, compared to the first one, which only unlocked the difficulty sliders in New Game Plus. Unfortunately, this game, as of recording, does not have New Game Plus. It's like going to come in a later update.
Unplayable.
I know, right? That's one of the 2 things that I think are actually a downgrade. But this one, the very first time you reach a respite to save or whatnot, you can change the difficulty sliders. So I'm not sure what you did, but I immediately thought like, okay, well, I'll change it to hard, which is really just a preset for the different ways you can kind of tweak difficulty for enemy HP, enemy damage, how resistant they are to stuns and status effects, how frequently they attack. all those get buffed. In the hard preset, for whatever reason, it did not touch enemy HP. It just maintained at vanilla, which I thought was weird. But like, I kind of get it. Like, you don't want things to take longer if they're already just harder. But just seeing that one slider not move, I didn't like it. So I also bumped that up to the 1.2 times, same as the attack damage. Never put it down. I thought that was a great amount of difficulty for this game.
No.
Personally.
I don't know. I left it on normal and didn't even open that menu.
Okay, so yeah, enemies were attacking 1.5 times as frequently, and were stunned for half as or 3/4 as long, something like that. But
which, I don't know. I found the enemies pretty aggressive sometimes, so...
Yeah, I think some enemies it doesn't really affect because they're like always kind of attacking. I'm thinking of the drill guys who kind of just like lunge at you back and forth in the mines. But no, this was a game that, okay, I think I'm busted as a person now. If a boss didn't take like 10 tries, I was disappointed.
That's fair. There was one boss that I beat on the first try, and I was a little disappointed.
Right? So I'm going to get back to why the combat in this game is probably one of my favorites. We'll get into like how like loadouts work and like the abilities and how it's changed from the spirits in the original. What also changes the map when you're exploring, it does that thing where it'll color in the squares when you've gotten everything in it.
Yeah.
And I remember you brought up how people were complaining that they were just boxes with like white lines in between them.
Yeah.
In this game, finally, the shape matches what they look like. And between zones, it's still like the white line, but within zones, it is an actual like shape. So they match what your memory of the zones look like.
Yeah, they put way more detail into the map system in this one.
If you run into barriers or locked doors, it will have a little like red cross on it if you don't have the ability or key.
Yeah, you can even mouse over them. Mouse is the wrong term when you're using a controller, but whatever. On the map menu, and they will tell you which ability it uses if you already have it.
It's a very convenient thing that we lauded in the original game. I had an intrusive thought while playing it where I thought that, is this in fact too easy? Am I not suffering enough? Because, okay, everyone enjoys it except me. I know you don't have to enable this. I know I'm busted. But there's this experience I have in these games where I develop a relationship with certain areas where I just keep returning back to them. And they never have anything. But like they have a little like, I don't know. They burrow their way into my mind. Like the friction rubs off on me, as it were. And so this is a good feature to have, but I didn't feel the game as much, if that makes sense.
I guess. I mean, go play Hollow Knight again. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Don't use the Wayward Compass. Go get lost. But yeah, I guess I can see that.
No, you don't have to see this. I'm telling you, this is a bad thing. It's a weird thing to say 43 episodes into a project that is at least 50% a vehicle for my opinions, but you should not trust my opinions.
Yeah, I mean, like, to be fair, it's like we're 43 episodes deep on this. We are now like the weird guys that play these, right? Like, to some extent, some of these things are just not for us. And it's like, we will put up with weird old Japanese games where you have to get out the graph paper.
Well, we'll put up to an extent. Let's be real. We're not revisiting Xanadu.
Yes.
Yet.
I mean, but like we played Spelunker, right? And that was fine.
Was it fine? Tell me honestly.
It was playable.
It was playable, okay.
But yeah. So that's just like, this is smooth. Where's the friction? What?
Yeah.
I don't feel anything from this.
We're the comedian's comedian of Metroidvania enthusiasts.
Yeah, I did find it a little funny in that at one point I started using the minimap to aim abilities when it was like, oh, there's a thing off screen and you're supposed to time it to like get into the hole kind of thing.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, I can just put it into the superimposed mode and hey, I'm lined up and you can just track your cursor there and fire when you're lined up. And I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe it would have been a more interesting experience if I struggled with that a little bit.
Maybe, but that is also ingenious in a way that I'm now kind of mad I didn't think of it. Because I did have a bit of trouble aiming those things. Like, this is a traversal thing where you have your jump and double jump off the bat. So all of your abilities are generally just ways of going up really fast or horizontally really fast, and keys, which is, I guess, a bit of a disappointment because all of those things are kind of also Hollow Knight things.
Yeah.
Of like latch onto a wall, charge, and then burst across the screen or on the ground and burst upwards.
Yeah, I mean, the first one was also not very original with its abilities, and this one is no different, right? Like, you've got the down slam, which opens things. You've got the sideways running, which you then have to use to ram into things. This time you can jump.
Yes.
Which is much nicer, to be fair. You also get a water version of that, which you can chain into the land version.
Yeah, if you're dashing in the water and leave the water, your wolf comes out, and now you're dashing on land, and vice versa.
Yep. Inside you, there are two wolves. One of them is actually a spider. A spider that after he got that ability, I'm like, wait, is he also supposed to be some kind of jellyfish now?
Maybe?
I don't know.
Listen, it's a homunculus. It can be anything. It's
Yeah.
a homunculus that used to be a dude.
Yes.
Whatever. That's weird side stories for all of your homunculus friends, and like the original game, you see their memories. This time it's all a bit more contemporary, but yeah, a lot of like fun little things you can discover on the way.
Yeah.
All the bits of lore.
So in general, I found the lore less interesting and more confusing this time around.
It's a bit less clean than the original. I'll give you that. I wouldn't say it's less interesting, but I do think that when you get to the end of the story, it is less clear what everyone's motivations are. Like,
yeah.
In the first game, it's like, oh, there's only, like, you're the only one left alive, and you're kind of just cleansing the land. In this one, people are still gonna, like, live, but in what capacity depends on your action at the end. And, like, I wasn't even clear on which ending I was getting. I figured I was getting at least not the bad end. There's only two, it turns out.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I wouldn't say that's necessarily less interesting, but just definitely less clear. But the moment to moment of each individual character, and like when they join your party, you'll have like very minor little skits, conversations with them. Just enough flavor for me to think like, okay, broader plot, maybe a bit of a, if not downgrade, then at least it missed a mark they were going for. But the details, I guess, I appreciated more.
I don't know, there's some amount of the things that were actually interesting to me in the lore turned out not to be really the things you were going to confront.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you definitely wanted to like talk to the shackled beast and ask him where he got that cool e-cigarette.
Yes, of course.
One of your homunculuses is a giant man who vapes.
I mean, what's the deal with the shackled beast would also have been nice to answer, but I mean more like there's this whole thing about like Abelia is performing rituals to transfer herself into the bodies of new attuners. And I was like, oh, okay, so she's actually the big bad. And I was like, oh no, someone killed her. She's dead. It's like, okay.
That's also like, I think, optional if you're just going for the first ending to see like what happens with her and eventually. That's with the chief attuner Yorin.
Yeah.
His storyline. But yeah, there's a lot of characters that kind of just messed everything up in minor and major ways that led to the current situation that are now either gone or have turned themselves into homunculi or just Sirs not appearing in this game.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, it didn't interest me as much as the stuff from the first game. I don't know. And maybe some of the stuff in the first game was just a little more like melodrama.
Yeah.
Oh, the like bastard prince who has always wanted to confront the king is finally getting his chance at the moment the kingdom is corrupted kind of thing, right? Like, but this is just like, it didn't feel like there was very much emotion at all in it sometimes. Whereas it's like, factory log, the test subject is doing well.
I don't know, the Spider Boy getting betrayed by his mentor and Gilroy having a sibling-like bond with Nola. There's some bits there, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's actually like fewer logs to read with a lot more like cutscenes between characters who are flesh and blood and alive.
Yeah, I suppose.
Which does kind of, changes a bit of that. Like, I think the whole Yolvin and Levy, the people you meet very early on, I think it's front-loaded as with the characters you meet as far as character drama is concerned.
I'm also still a little surprised that Levy's not evil.
You thought Levy was evil?
Look, when I found him in the Land of Origin, I was like, whoa, are you secretly evil?
I think it's a girl, and also she just gets around.
Yeah, I don't know. Definitely expecting something more sinister when she started appearing in dangerous areas. But I guess it's just to like, yep, this is just NPCs. Somehow they're sneaking around all these very deadly things that you've just waded through.
Yeah, somehow. She just got a new homunculus friend. Just off screen. Don't worry about them. It's kind of set up like, that's kind of suspicious, but turns out it's just fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
I liked it. I liked the two noble houses feuding in the background and like the different schools of thought regarding attunement and homunculi, Frosts and Milius.
Somehow that didn't like make me care very much.
Oh no.
I don't know what the problem there was.
Well, that's fine, because you can always fall back on raw gameplay in combat, and this game has that in spades. I think is the strongest. It's far stronger than it was in the original. It still maintains that somewhat floaty and disjointed, like you're summoning your homunculi to attack, but instead of just gathering enemies and just doing their attacks, you're gaining, like, mostly it's bosses and other folks you meet around, and they join your party, and you have loadouts.
I mean, I don't know, I kind of liked the getting the enemies thing that the first one had going on.
It's a degree of flavor that I think is the first game's strength. Like, you see an attack, and eventually you get that exact attack. This game is more like, okay, when you fight bosses, you'll get some of their abilities, but not all. Or rather, you'll get some abilities they don't use.
Yeah. And I don't know, there felt like there was a really long period in between for me getting some of them.
I did not feel that.
Maybe that's just the order that I did areas somehow, where it was like, I think I had the first 5, and it was like hours before I got another one.
Maybe, like, some of them are optional, but yeah, I should back up and actually explain this. Like, you will get homunculi join you, and each of them will have 3 different modes that you can upgrade that are all fairly unique. Like, your main attack will change between damage sword, combo heavy scythe, or stunning slow hammer. Then you'll also have abilities that are based on a timer. So you got the fist boy, the dude who punches, which will be a straight ahead, adds fire. It'll leap and do an explosion with ice, or fire like at an angle upward and deal multiple hits. Kind of ricochet.
Yeah.
Then there are types that are just autonomous. They'll follow you around, or you set and forget, and they'll just do whatever they do. Or there are I think it's called suppression or something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever the one is that you just hold and you can still move around. The first one you get is a gun, which can also instead be a drill, which has far reduced range but goes through defenses. Great. And then on and on and on. Like, there's another timer that's just the one that counters. And you can have counters that are either stunning or doing status or like getting a bit of range. But you have a lot of versatility in your loadout for like, okay, this boss is giving me trouble in this way. Change what I have access to focus more on like either dodging or where the openings are or how much damage I need to do quickly. I don't know. Like, as soon as I saw what it was going for, like, you see your ability screen and like how much space is there, and I got excited. And in my opinion, it lived up to that excitement of when you get an upgrade to a new thing, I'm going to try it out for a while, see how it works, changing my strategy, finding uses for things I did not have any use for earlier on. I don't know. It was great.
I don't know. I found it a little more constrained, mostly because early on you don't have that many of them, and you're limited to okay, you get this guy, but you only get one mode of that guy. So no equipping the sword and the axe.
Yeah, they have 3 modes. You cannot get more than one of each individual party member, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe I was just finding the upgrade material more, or early on, I was just kind of plowing through a bit more. Like I did not need that kind of like changing in my strategy earlier on, but I don't know. Like I found like the different modes of each one accessible pretty quickly.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, the different modes wasn't that much of a problem.
Yeah.
Although, like, I guess I tended to pigeonhole a little bit and be like, okay, I'm going to use this specific mode because this is the one I like. And I never actually really tried the pressure tornado drill thing. I maybe should have.
Oh yeah, that was actually like I kept going back to it.
Oh.
I'd get the alternate mode that fires like a saw blade downward to like position from above. But then going back to the drill because the drill ate through the enemy's like stun bar very quickly. And it was just an easy thing when I was just like running through zones to just kind of have out. And then if I needed to fight for real, got all the other stuff. I remember eventually like ditching the counter ability just because I started just getting good at the regular parry and just having that extra slot for either another autonomous one that just kind of sets and forgets, or the Witch, which was just constant status effect buildup, which also built up SP like you wouldn't believe, but sometimes that's not useful. So I don't know.
Okay, we had very different experiences of this. I benched the pressure guy very early on.
Oh no.
Found him kind of useless, but I guess I hadn't tried the whirlwind drill. I think maybe put him in you're a ranged attack, what are you doing being close range, Cam?
See, it's just like, okay, while I'm moving, I can have this free damage while I'm getting into position.
I got Louisic, the witch, very late, actually.
Oh, okay.
It kind of sillily late. I had already done all of both zones on that tier, and I think gone to the Frost Manor before I was like, oh wait, there's a boss I missed.
I think you might have done maybe 1 or 2 bosses extra than I did. I got to her, found that I was just having trouble with that boss. She has a gimmick where she summons an ad that heals, and at my current difficulty of hard, was struggling with killing that heal bot fast enough. So I'm like, okay, I'll just come back later. I've got places to be. Redid my strategy to focus on stunning that thing instead of just killing it. I don't know. Maybe it was also a difficulty thing where certain things are more effective.
Maybe. She was also the only boss that I beat on the first try.
Very funny.
So, I mean, I was on normal, so I found her kind of a joke.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, here's another version of the abilities that I've already kind of sidelined. Although I learned at some point that you can hold both of them at the same time.
Which story?
If you put her on and the other pressure one.
Oh yeah. Like each of these like modes function independently. So you can have multiple pressures going at once. You just can't use your main attacks. Anything with timing you can like trigger simultaneously. They just have their unique cooldowns essentially.
And then I think I forget which one is M and which one is H. The second of the birds.
Oh, Hugin and Mugen are the two. For whatever reason, they're owls in this game.
Yeah.
Whatever.
There should be crows, but okay.
It's fine. It's fine. Third thing I have a problem with in this game.
Yeah. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, yeah. I found him actually very late.
The one that dodges and triggers?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I didn't find much use for it, but I think that's mostly problem with my brain where I couldn't stop thinking of my dodge as an attack once I had him on. And so instead of just some free damage every time I dodge, I'm going for dodges and being disappointed at the damage output.
I tried him against the final boss at one point. He wasn't part of my winning loadout, but my thought was, I keep dodging behind the final boss. Maybe I should just put on the free damage when you dodge behind people.
Yeah, and it like lowers your mental stack for like setting the autonomous one, so you only have to really worry about activating 1 or 2 things instead of like the full suite of 4 and just managing cooldowns and like pressure and all that.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a point in mid-game, I think just before you can get Luisic, or I've forgotten the samurai's name, number 7.
I think it's just his name is just number 7.
Yeah, where I was like kind of bored with the options.
Oh no.
I also found the counter guy a little disappointing in that I had been trying to use the dash counter
Okay, yeah.
and found that it would just not hit enemies. Like, if a boss was attacking and I used it, it would just not damage the boss.
Yeah, that one, as part of his abilities, he has one that he just like charges forward and like does a little bull charge knock-up thing. The use case for that is ranged attack counters.
No, I found the Howl much better for all uses. In fact, I don't think I ever used the first ability for him. Whoops.
It's okay. Like, yeah, the Howl doesn't do stun damage, whereas the first one does, but
Yeah, but the Howl freezes people.
it's quite good. But like the Howl has the longest cooldown innately, and
Yeah.
the one that shoots forward and jumps up is like almost half that cooldown. So it's for countering ranged attacks and having it up more often.
That's fair.
It has a use case. I didn't need it because I was always in people's faces anyway.
Maybe I was just not creative enough for some of these, but some of these were just like, this seems just too awkward to use. Like, the samurai's abilities that are not the dash are just like, no, stop doing that. I would like my character to remain where they are.
I found the samurai's other abilities a bit more useful when it's just for traversal.
Yes.
And when I wanted specifically Frost on his one tornado ability. I will say that I think I was challenged more by the game just from having it a higher difficulty, and because this is somewhat Souls-like in design, it's a game of thresholds. So 1.2 times damage doesn't sound like enough, but it does change a 3-hit to a 2-shot.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, like, there were some enemies that just hit bonkers hard anyway.
Yeah, and you don't get a lot of iframes after getting hit either, so you can very easily chain yourself into multiple hits into death.
Yeah, the boss of the factory I had a bunch of trouble with, and half of it was just like, there were single hits that were more than half your health. I was like, okay, so I gotta heal up to full anytime I get hit.
Yeah, he's a guy who hits hard.
And can't be stunned.
Yeah, that's a thing I will say about this game as well. Another point in the combat that challenges me. It has good variations in the kind of challenge the bosses present. So like, it's almost necessary to change up your strategy, like use your other abilities. At least I found, because basically every boss past the first couple was several attempts, changing out one or two abilities, see what worked. And I found that very rewarding. I don't know.
Or you could just get good.
I did get good. It took several tries, but I did it. Oh my god, the tower where you have to fight like 3 mini bosses in a row before the samurai. It took a lot of, okay, well, this is good for these couple of fights, but the last one is still trouble.
I did not find that very hard on normal, but again, I'm on the lower difficulty. I think I got to the samurai and didn't have full heals on the first time, and I was like, okay, gotta do this better the second time, and
simply be better.
Got through it without actually needing to be down a heal for him the second time and then beat him on the second time.
Okay.
Normal was just, I mean, yeah, maybe I should have been pushing it up to hard. Then I'd worry that I would need enough tries that I wouldn't have managed to finish.
In my mind, I was thinking like, okay, if this is too hard, I can always bump it down, but it's always hard to know when to bump it up.
That's fair.
Like if I'm just actively not having fun, it's just like, okay, this is just bullshit. I'm getting one shot and I have nowhere else to explore. Maybe then, but I never ran into that. It's a game that maintained its difficulty even as I find everything, as I get all the relics and I've upgraded those as well, still having trouble. But like only enough friction that I think, okay, well, if I just dodged better, now I know that move, I know where to position.
That reminds me, though, I did kind of want to complain about upgrade systems in just like,
sure,
there's a lot of currencies in this game.
There,
one of them doesn't matter at all, to be fair.
There are 3, if my count is correct.
I'm also counting the upgrade materials.
Okay, that's more finding a new ability almost. Whatever.
The upgrade materials were kind of a pain because it's just like a lot of them you just buy from the store, right? And so you're looking at the store and you go, who is this for? Oh, the store's not going to help me out at all. So I'm going to go back to the save point and open the... Actually, I guess you could just back out of the store and look in your menu.
Yes, you could.
But like, I don't know, there's just some like weird level of friction where it's like, it wasn't that predictable what material would be for what ability kind of thing.
Yeah, like there tended to be like the middle ability of like 6 different party members are all upgraded to level 2 by this thing, and
Yeah.
there are only 2 upgrades total for each individual upgrade, so there's not all that many. I kind of saw that as, well, I'm going to need this anyway, kind of thing. If I have the cash to spend on it, I'm going to want it.
Yeah.
Just like looking if there's anything better to buy currently. If not, hey, I'll use it. It'll incentivize me to try this new thing I just upgraded.
I've finished the game with like a bajillion relic slots still to buy. There are so many relic slots in the store. Why?
There are far more relic slots than you'll even have the room to place relics.
I mean, if you were just prioritizing buying relic slots, then I think you were equipping all of the highest cost relics at that point. I don't know.
I guess.
Because I had like 20 left to buy.
Yeah.
I was like, that is an insane amount for someone who has otherwise full completed this game.
Yeah, there's no reason for it. It's just far more than you need, just I guess in case.
Yeah,
I have no idea. If you never upgraded your relics, which use a different currency, which is harder / easier to get. Basically just using certain special moves, dash abilities on enemies will break them, and then they're weaker, which is great. But also you get a different currency to upgrade, specifically relics and nothing else. It's something I found I just passively accrued instead of actively farmed.
Yeah, I was occasionally frustrated when I didn't have enough of that, just because it was like getting real close was like, now I have to go find some guys to run into.
I was definitely using SP when I definitely didn't need to, just because I knew, hey, I'm getting free money from this.
Honestly, I kind of forgot that the super moves also broke them.
I was getting super meter so fast with Louisique or whatever, the witch lady.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of spamming it by the end there.
That's fair. I wasn't using the pressure abilities, so maybe I was just missing out.
Maybe, but then again, it's also, maybe it just does not cater to whatever you wanted out of this combat system. Don't know.
I mean, it was fine. I wasn't having a bad time.
I also might have set you up to fail because I'd finished this game basically before you started and had already set it up like, you should play. It's very good. I'm just like, no, maybe built it up a bit. Maybe set you up to expect a bit more.
Like, it's not a bad game. I just don't know that it's, like...
better? Like, you think the first game is better in terms of it just being more succinct?
Yeah, I don't know. So, like, the builds are more open in the first game, which is not necessarily this is a better game thing, right? It's just, I felt less constrained, right? There were definitely points in this where I was like, okay, I choose between the autonomous fire and having the pressure guy.
I see.
That was, to me, that was the only choice at that point. Right, where it's like, okay, I mean, I could have been like, I can have both the pressure guy and the autonomous fire if I give up the counters or whatever, but...
Yeah, give up the counters because you'll just get better at parrying. Maybe you'll want to invest in whatever status effects because you're using ice and the hammer going for stuns and freezes, but oh wait, this boss doesn't get stunned. Or, I don't know. Like, I found that, yeah, there's like less breadth, but no filler, all killer. Except for that one dodge owl, but that's only because I never dodged, only parried.
I tended to forget about parry until heavy ranged attacks came up, and then I was like, oh yeah, I can do this.
It's free real estate.
Yeah, and the weird spider rolling ball boss. I don't know, I found that boss very hard to fight by maneuvering.
Yeah.
So I just stopped, and it was just like, I'm just going to stand still, and you're going to run into me, and I'm going to parry that. That's when I texted you, oh no, I hope this isn't a parry-centric game.
And it can be. I certainly played it like that. I'm not sure if every boss past that really necessitated it.
Nah, not really.
You could really just dodge everything, and even that boss, I'm pretty sure you can learn, but...
I used it on the boss of the factory just because he had a very predictable ranged attack.
Yeah.
Right? And so you could just be like, okay, I'm going to get a bunch of super meter or a bunch of damage on you while you do this attack, right?
I just found this much more balanced in terms of, like, I have a lot of strategies that all mostly work, as well as, like, the core gameplay loop being a bit tighter. I don't know. it was everything I wanted in a sequel, except that I guess not getting enemy attacks is a little bit less flavorful, but that's it. Like everything else, excellent game. But how good was it compared to all the other games we played in our stack rank? Of course, if anyone wants to follow along and or see what the entire list is, the link is in the doobly-doo. I'm going to assume you don't know exactly where you're placing it off the top of your dome.
Of course I don't. Why would I have thought of that during this podcast in which I'm making very minor complaints about a good game?
Yeah. Well, I already spoiled mine when I said it was a top 5 easy, and I do believe that. For reference, my top 5 is Unsighted, Metroid Prime, Hollow Knight, Prince of Persia, and Metroid Dread, with Ender Lilies coming in at number 7. For this one, I think the sheer variety of different builds and ways to approach combat push it just slightly above Prince of Persia, whose platforming is superior, gotta say. But I found that in the same way that like this is a sort of a Dark Souls versus Sekiro comparison, where Sekiro does one thing really, really well. There is a level of expression in Ender Magnolia that just kind of excited me more as I saw where the future branched out at the beginning of the game. And unlike you, was pressured into seeing where that led and was not disappointed. So, new number 4, Ender Magnolia, Bloom in the Mist.
Yeah, I don't know. So the big debate that I'm having is, do I actually think it's a worse game than Ender Lilies?
It's certainly a longer game.
Right, it's longer, and I feel like just I was less interested in the story.
That's weird, because I was more interested in it just because the characters were alive and I could talk to them.
Oh, living people.
I know, right? They're the worst.
Yeah.
Easily my least favorite kind of person alive.
I don't know, the little chats were not enough to me. I don't know, the characters I felt didn't go beyond
I smoke a cool vape pen, or I am a spider now, and I guess that's okay.
Yeah, like, I don't know, they stayed one note.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you a second personality trait for basically any of them. Least of all Nola.
Yeah.
She's got amnesia.
They all do.
Yeah.
I'll say, compared to the first game, that was also the case there, except a lot of them had 0 personality. They were an attack.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I don't know. I think I am putting it under the original.
Wow.
But I don't know where I'm putting it. I'm gonna go under Islets.
Oh, wow.
The new number 15.
I'm surprised you liked Iconoclast.
Iconoclasts doesn't deserve to be up there, and you bullied me into that. Honestly, Iconoclast should probably be down below
40.
Yeah. I mean, it's not terrible, but it probably deserves to be below Axiom Verge or something like that.
Yeah, maybe one of these days we'll do a complete revisit. I mean, I know everything in my list is right where it needs to be.
So, I mean, this is kind of arbitrary, but it was just like...
Kind of?
I wasn't vibing with it as much.
Oh.
And... I mean, maybe that some of that is that I procrastinated and then I was like, I have to finish this.
This happens fairly often.
It does.
Yeah.
It's the reviewer's curse.
Yeah. Yeah, you unfortunately have more of a life and are not actually professionally paid for this, so.
Wait, you're not paying me?
Check's in the mail. Don't worry about it.
I don't know. It's a perfectly good game. I just don't like it more than the original, apparently. I don't know. I think the original did the get stuff for the true end better. I don't know.
Maybe.
That's a strange complaint.
I feel like both of them are just kind of get the MacGuffin and equip it into the final thing.
Yeah, I mean, the original at least made you get a bunch of MacGuffins. Also, man, they really like hell runs.
Yeah.
Adglobe and or
Live Wire and or Binary Haze.
Yeah, because they really like making you do them to get to story relevant things.
Yeah. In this game, you don't even get any sort of equipment to stop the passive damage in the hell zone.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of that was one of my confusions at one point. What color is the poisonous water?
It's dark red.
I found that it wasn't always dark red. In fact, at one point, I actually was like, hey, wait a minute, I'm being poisoned by this water. And went and showed my wife, okay, you're not colorblind. what color is this water? And then I went and found safe water. I was like, what color is this water? And she's like, I don't know, it's the same.
Huh. I don't recall this myself.
This was in one particular spot immediately after the dung beetle mini boss. I think the rest of the water was better, but it was still a little weird.
Well, it did not stick out in my mind 4 weeks ago, so obviously it's not an issue.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I thought of that just now, but I mean, I was thinking about the Hell Run.
The Hell Run, yeah. Speaking of Hell Runs, the original Hell Run, of course, was Super Metroid, but we're not talking about that one. I think instead, for next game, we will jump back a bit in the timeline from I think the first Metroid game we did, Metroid Dread, into Metroid Fusion.
All right.
Probably the most talky of all of the Metroids, the progenitor of Adam, a fan favorite.
Yeah.
I was going to actually give us one of those shitty Commodore 64 like old ass games as punishment for not finishing this one, but you managed to squeak in at the very last second, and so all will benefit with a game that is, by all accounts, despite its perhaps narrative foibles, an actually good, well-made Metroid game. So we'll see how it goes next month.
Fusion is the first Metroid game I played.
Well, it's a glorious return to form.
And I did not like it back then. So we'll see.
Not liking a game that is actually pretty good is all I expect from you, so Godspeed and good luck. Regardless, if you hate good games, make sure to tell us by leaving a comment on our YouTube page or on Facebook, or sending an email at invertedcastlepodcast@gmail.com. We are, of course, still on X, the site that used to be good, that's why they call it X, and probably on other various social medias of your choosing. Of course, all of this is at Inverted Castle or Inverted Castle P. Please, never forget the P.
Yeah, Blue Sky, Mastodon, Threads. I don't like Threads. You can only post one hashtag. It's weird.
Yeah, fuck Threads. Slightly less than fuck X.
Yeah, I should probably just close that account. I keep saying that, and then I keep not doing it.
Well, we'll keep not doing a lot of things. Until next time, I've been Eric Fox.
And I've been Thomas Blade.
And remember, kids, smokers are jokers, but vaping is always cool.